This
order.
conference will now be recorded.
November 28th, 2023 meeting of the Tilton Planning Board. And the first order of business is a continuation of a change of use request. And this is for Sun Mantra, which is Casamigos at 276 Main Street. I think that we had approved the application and we had some questions. So is there a representative here?
Yeah.
Hi.
I'm Todd Gilbert from Gilbert Construction.
Hi, Todd.
You have questions?
And John, you had some questions.
So the questions we were discussing is, it says that there's 10 parking spaces. It wasn't shown on the plan which spots would be reserved for that apartment.
Whatever he chooses to reserve for it, it's only 2 spaces. He has 12 spaces back there.
The question was, that's also for the other buildings that are on that site?
It-
Yeah, and there's
Businesses.
businesses, yeah. How many are taken up by those?
Casamigos uses 2 spaces, and then Suman has 2 employees, but only 1 at a time. So he's using 4 spaces of the 12 available at the current time.
Yes, what is
So the
the
6 one.
maximum usage you guys have seen recently as far as, okay, everyone's there working on a busy day, deliveries, that kind of stuff? I mean, if there are 12 existing parking spaces and, less than 6 are being used, seems like there's enough parking, but it really
Yeah, I
depends
don't-
on what the maximum is, not the, minimum utilization.
Yeah, I don't stand back there and watch who parks there, but it's a privately owned parking space by him. So if he wanted to choose to not allow anyone other than people in that building, he has that choice. But I've only seen, the most I've ever seen is 4 to 6 spaces used.
And it's just the 2 businesses in that building, and then it would be the addition of the apartment?
Right.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? John?
I think that was it. We just have requirements that for apartments, there has to be a certain number of parking spaces. In businesses, there has to be a certain number of parking spaces for the employees. And does that exceed the 12? Do you know what those are offhand?
I don't.
One comment that came up, John, from another selectman was that that's not been a requirement. For instance, that there's another business down the street, another eating establishment, and there are only 2 parking spaces that the selectmen designated for the owners.
Mhm.
The rest is, and they have far more than the number of parking spaces there of employees, so.
Madam Chair.
Any other questions?
Madam Chair.
Yes, I'm sorry, we can't. Yeah, somebody in the audience, all right,
Yep.
yes.
Selectman
Identify yourself, please.
Constantino here. I think I do understand the rules and regulations of the planning board. However, downtown has always been exempt from those rules and regulations as far as parking is concerned, because you can't possibly expect a business, and if you look at the businesses that are existing right now and the amount of employees they have, there are no parking spaces for employees. I can name off a dozen right now that have absolutely zero parking for their businesses. And so why should we require Casamigo, because they have 10 parking spaces in the back of their property, to have any more parking? They have ample parking for their apartments. Right down the road, we have, for example, T-Hop. They have zero parking spaces for their apartments upstairs. We allocated, as a Board of Selectmen, 2 parking spaces allocated specifically for the owners of T-Hop to park so that they could come to business every day. That's a municipal parking area. anybody else downtown utilizes the municipal parking spaces that we have. So I think if you look back on the minutes years ago, that they were exempt from the parking regulations in the downtown railroad track to railroad track.
Okay, thank you, Selectman
Thank you.
Constantino. Are there any other comments or questions from Mr. Gilbert? Okay, thank you.
Can I just read the ordinance? I'm not my on. So it does say in the parking regulations for the downtown, is prior to approval of any new use, change of use, or expansion of use in the downtown district, the planning board and or the code enforcement officer may require verification that existing public parking will provide adequate parking accommodations. So it's doesn't say specifically, but does say just make sure there's parking, which I believe they
I
have
think
12, which is more than
spaces.
anybody else has.
12 spaces.
So that's just a general statement in the ordinance.
All right, I'll entertain a motion to accept change of use.
Second,
No, can you make a motion?
I propose a motion to accept the change of use for Sumantra LLC.
Okay, is there a second?
Second.
Any more discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Okay, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Selectman Constantino. And Leanne.
I would like to note that it did say public, so it isn't necessarily a requirement that the business has private parking. But I think it's more of a, we don't want someone putting 100 employees into, one of the buildings down there and suddenly there is no parking downtown.
I know with Sarno's building, we required them to have parking for their apartment if they were going to put it in.
But I believe, don't they buy, I believe, a lot of the apartments and buy
I'm not
a
sure
special permit.
not sure what I don't recall what it was. I
think
remember
they-
there was
I
a
think they had to,
situation
and
with
I
that.
know that Ms. Roberts, her people buy permits. to
Yes,
park,
so,
I believe.
so there are town parking permits for overnight
Yeah.
parking in a subset of the town lots.
Okay, moving right on, the next order of business is a new public hearing for Lockmere Meadows Development LLC at 219 Laconia Road. It's an amended site plan for a change in the driveway for a proposed commercial building. And there was some confusion about what this was and what it is. If you'll remember, Mr. Bernard came in earlier about where Rap City is. And so it's that location that he's talking about.
Right, and he received prior approval for a convenience store there,
Yes.
and it was pending DOT approval for that convenience store. He's now changing his plan slightly from a convenience store to a less intense use and received approval from DOT for a driveway. So that constituted an amended site plan. So John can present that.
And we had already okayed the application form.
Yep.
So does everybody have the driveway permit
I
from?
think the permit's in your packet as well. If not, I have it.
Yeah, we have it. Yes.
Oh, good. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
To the one that was approved.
This is the one that was approved that we have.
Yes, and I have the one that,
That's there, okay, all
that's
right.
the new one.
This is the new one, okay.
Phone had reversed, but you can see the one. That's the one.
It should be the same as what you have in your packet, not to be confused, but
Yeah.
that's fine.
But he has,
That's what that-
Color.
You just open it up, you'll see the one that was approved. And these two are reversed. one that was approved, and this is the one that I'm asking to be
Okay,
approved.
Yeah,
thank you.
just reverse from the way it was.
Okay, so instead of the wide 3-lane, it's now 2 separate?
Exactly.
Oh, yeah. That's a lot of turning.
All right, has everybody had a chance to look at the proposal? So John can, okay, okay, John, anytime you're ready.
Okay, thank you.
John, do you want the portable mic? You're gonna stand over there?
No, we probably do this for a second, you know.
Excuse me. There we go.
Like the phrase surprise material.
Hmm?
I like the phrase surprise material.
There we go. That's a little better.
My name is John Bernard, and I'm representing this property on 219 Laconia Road. And what we're moving it from is the approval where we had it for a convenience store. We went and did a traffic study and waited 1.5 years for the state to get back to us. And they said, yes, you can do it, but we want you to widen both sides of Route 3. At that point, it had taken so long that the manager that I had taken another position. So it wasn't a very viable option considering the expense of widening Route 3 on both sides. So we went back and thought about it for a while, and I was proposing to put a garage in there that was going to be used for a contractor, like a plumber or something like that. And in the process of doing that and coming in, I had someone call me for an optometrist, an eye doctor would like to go in there. So now that's what we're proposing. They didn't want to have the traffic mixing with Rap City because they have appointments, and it was going to be a convenience store. You expect traffic in and out, and everybody has to jockey for position. But they wanted to have a more contained parking area so they knew there'd be people for their patients. They usually see a patient every half hour or so. And right now they have one doctor. They'd like to add 2 doctors. So if you look at the parking spaces, when we did the reconfiguration, we lost one of the parking spaces. It was at 17, went down 16. And in that zone, with that type of business, for every 300 feet of space, you need 1 parking spot. And for every 5 employees, you need 1 parking spot, which is kind of crazy. But when you do the calculations and you come up to it, you'd have to have about 7 or 8 parking spots to make the business work. We have way over that. There's like 16. 4 is used for the back, so that gives us 12 to be used for the front business. Everything else I suggest should remain the same. The drainage calculations, all the drainage that I put in before, and how we're going to hold it and how it's going to work should all remain the same. Nothing else is really changing except for the driveway, and the parking spots get moved around a little bit. And that's what I'm asking for an approval for today.
Okay. I'll give everybody a chance to look at the plan more carefully, now that we know what he's going to put in there. John, they don't discharge any chemicals or anything, do they?
No. Matter of fact, I went down and looked at their business and what they do find glasses, and they have filter that goes through it, and it's discharged into a normal water, but they don't use any chemicals. I asked that question too. Actually went down to the shop.
That's the only question I have. Anybody have any other questions?
So what is the use of the other building or existing building going to be?
It's a gutter company. He stores his metal material. stock and colors and amounts to buy it. And they're advertising as a bulk, so that's what
Okay, so it's a shop
tradesman shop.
storage
Storage
area,
facility.
and then we're just adding an optometry business.
Right, and he's allowed 4 spaces in his lease.
Tom, any question?
Just at the exit there, John,
Yes.
to the left of the exit going out, is that going to be green space or is that going to be asphalt, impervious?
The green space is all captured within these lines.
So that's, yeah,
That's all green.
okay,
Everything outside
and
of it,
right there at the street, that right there where your finger is?
green, yep.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Eric, any questions?
Yeah. So how many employees are they gonna have?
Right now, that's
So this other person's using 4.
right, and we were talking about parking space at this time.
Yeah, I mean, it's,
Here we go.
well, I'm trying to count the space, so in the top left, it looks like there's 1 space or 2 spaces there.
There's 2.
That's 2, where that line is.
Yeah.
And then next to the building, is that 2 or is that 3?
I would have to know where you're pointing to.
Oh, sorry. Right here.
That one's 2. The one over there is 1. That's just 1 there.
This one, okay.
When I go by the regulations for parking, when I read it, it says 1 per 5 employees, which I don't really understand why it says that, and then 1 for every 300 square feet that you have of retail space.
That's correct.
So if we use that calculation, we have ample. We have, even if they hired 3 more people, 5 more people, we'd still have ample as far as the town's regulations are concerned for parking. Which I find that kind of odd, 1 for 5 spots, but 1 employee for 5, it seems, it is what it
I
is.
guess it might have to do with like shift work,
Right.
because if you've got, 3 8-hour shifts, you only need a third of the parking for the total number of employees. But
That makes sense.
Part-time, or, there are a lot of
yeah,
different
that might
scenarios.
be worth looking at. It is an odd number, but
Yep.
I'm sure there's a formula that came up with it.
And their business is appointment only. You go in, you have an appointment with the eye doctor, you go through the process. They're usually half-hour block appointments, so.
Any more questions, Eric?
Yeah, just one more. This purple box, if I'm reading it correctly, just to make sure, because I wasn't involved in the previous one, this purple box on here, is this
Right,
that's the stormwater?
It is. It's
Okay.
the in-ground infiltration system.
Okay. That the yellow.
We did all the calculations.
Yeah. I was on the board or wasn't
You
here.
weren't here.
Yeah. So I'm all set.
Christine? I'm all set. John, all set?
I'm good.
Okay. I'll make a motion to accept the change in the driveway. Is there a
Second. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. Thank you, John.
Thank you.
So if the chair will allow and the board, we have one more change of use that is on your agenda, but the application just came in yesterday because they were trying to get some signatures, authorizations from owners. So that was the holdup. So I can pass these out if you're willing to take a look at it tonight.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So you're going to speak to it?
All right, I'll make a motion to bring the application to the floor. Is there a second?
Christine.
Second?
Yeah, Christine.
Oh, okay.
I did.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay.
So this is the location that used to be the smoothie place,
Yeah, the protein
The
bar.
protein shop.
protein bar. Yeah,
Protein.
thank you. That they're looking to occupy. So it's changing from a food, I guess, restaurant classification to retail.
It looks reasonably complete to me. So I'll make a motion to accept it. Complete.
So
Second.
moved.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. All right, any comments or questions from the planning board? Looking careful.
Yeah, this threw me off. I don't know what that is. That's for something else.
I don't know what that is.
Yeah, that was.
That's because, that was George and.
No,
That
it's
might
a-
be Casamigos.
Yeah.
It was throwing me off because I'm like,
Well, because Casamigo had a site plan, and I know that the board now requires any change of use to have a site plan on file. So that was Casamigo's site plan,
no,
which we addressed at the last meeting.
no, I know. It was just
Okay.
confusing me. Like it wasn't the buildings weren't matching up.
Oh, okay. This is the other side of the street.
Since when did the Saki River flow over here? So maybe we rerouted it. I don't know.
That last storm we had.
Yeah, you never know.
Why we have 100-year storm. Any questions before we?
I have questions, but do you want them to speak first?
Yeah, we'll have them speak first.
So are we required to have this posted and this stuff ahead of time?
No, it's on the agenda. It isn't even a public hearing because it's just change of use.
Okay.
There's actually no requirement to post the plans. I mean, we do that, but yeah.
All right, Shelley, would you like to talk about it? Identify yourself. I know you, they don't.
Hi, I'm Shelley Meeks, and I own Well Balanced Massage over with Kim Prince Everything. But I want to open a new business called Revelations, where there will be more holistic kind of vendors, and there will be classes where you can learn how to make those products that they're selling.
Questions from the board? Christine?
Says there's nothing that's gonna be changed interior wise. Food, so there must be.
No, we're going to leave the counter that they have in there, and that's where we'll do the classes.
The cooking elements, no.
Can you move your mic, Christine, just a little closer?
Oh, we're sharing.
Oh, yours isn't working? Yeah, take mine.
I don't know what's in there, so, yeah. The only modification is just gonna be the sign that says, and no interior, so there's probably a bathroom in there, but there's no cooking areas or, fry later. or
There's
anything.
none of that.
Okay.
There's just the counter that's in there.
Okay.
Any other questions? I'm going to make a motion.
I'll make a motion that we approve the change of use for 267 Main Street, U05-17.
And I'll second that.
I just have one comment, if I could, just to keep in with what the board is requiring. There is no site plan on this property.
Amber,
I'm not making any judgment on that, just letting the board know.
how's the board feel? We have a motion on the floor. Want to withdraw the motion until we can talk about that, Eric?
With my trauma.
I'll withdraw the second.
Did I say that?
How do you feel about that?
Well, if we're required to have one, I don't know if there's, I mean, what type of site plan would be required since it's a,
Well, I think the building itself would need a site plan, which hopefully the property owner has one and can provide one. But so to be clear, like there is no kitchen. It's essentially a retail space that has a counter where,
Correct.
appliances were used.
Correct.
I mean, this was a place that sold smoothies and, t-shirts and stuff, and now it's going to be a holistic, natural vendor where they
Those
are
smoothies.
teaching classes and like, so I'm assuming there's not going to be like cooking or baking, but there may be some degree of like making drinks or, blenders, other types of, small appliances.
There
Or,
might be that, but we don't have anything scheduled like that. We have classes like painting and making wreaths and like that.
Was there a site plan when the building was done?
I have no idea. That building must be pretty old. I don't have anything on file.
we have
So
any,
nothing at all.
do we have a change of use for the property when it became a food
Yeah, we have
service?
prior, because we used to do change of use on a regular basis without requiring site plans, but I know the board now has taken a new position on all change of uses and change of ownership need a site plan. So I'm just bringing that
There've been
forward.
since I've been on the board, there've been like 4 different businesses in there. And they've all been retail of one sort or another.
So it's not that the boards require it, it's our zoning regulations require it. So that, I wonder if we could approve it and just ask for, that you would just do a sketch of the building, something rudimentary of that would cover for a site plan.
I mean, I would
It
fine
is
with
an official
a
requirement.
conditional approval, and then, pending submission of the site plan, all of the information as far as like the site plan requirements are available on the town website. But as John stated, it can be freehand. We don't have, requirements for it to be drafted by architects.
It would just be a schematic of what the location is. With, if there was a main room and then a little room on the side and then a bathroom, just draw that out
Okay.
freehand. I mean, make it legible so we know what.
Well, I mean, technically, it's,
I think it needs measurements and stuff.
Now
though.
we need,
Yeah, it
we need to
needs
have the
dimensions.
It
measurements.
needs measurements of
So
each
then
room.
do we have to come before you again before we can open?
No.
No.
We're saying we would approve it
Okay,
conditionally. And
Okay.
that condition is that you present that to us.
we will get that right to you.
One question. Have you had a fire permit, a fire inspection?
Not yet, no.
Do you plan to get one?
Yes.
Okay.
yes. 'Cause
But
that
they will
is-
have to meet the building and code and fire.
Yeah, they have to
They'll have to
do
get an
all
occupancy permit before they can enter.
Thank you.
I mean,
that. So
I'm almost questioning whether there should have been a change of use for the smoothie shop, given that, like, it is and isn't food service in a sense. Like, there was no kitchen, there's no, equipment like that.
well, we don't need to
But,
go
yeah.
back
Took it
to
out.
what.
Yeah.
Okay, is everybody, I'll make a motion to accept it, conditional approval. And once the site plan is given to us. Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, all right.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I would like to note that since the site plan, I don't believe they need any interiors. They just need an exterior overhead of the plot and the building. So it is,
I have a question.
Mhm.
I'm gonna poke the bee's nest right now.
What?
So at the outlet mall, if a store goes in or store leaves and a store comes in, we don't do a site plan for it. So for instance,
But they have a site plan though.
right, but
We do a CO and we do inspections.
right, and that would be required here, but it's not, they're not digging and putting in the new parking lot. They're painting the walls. They're gonna put a sign up and they're gonna furnish it however they would furnish it. And it just, I don't know, it makes me wonder if we should really have them all come in. I mean, we don't have the outlet mall come in. So for instance, the smoothie bar that went in is a pretty significant change of use because it was all retail. Now you're going to food. And I'm just asking the question of,
So prior to, I guess I'll say this year or the past 6 months, the way the change of use application reads is that it can be approved by the land use office, code enforcement, or if there is a question whether there needs to be a site plan for it, then it goes to the planning board for their discretion whether they would like to require a new site plan based on the scale of the change. In the past 6 months, the officers decided to bring everything to the planning board because things that we were not bringing to the planning board were brought up and asked why they weren't seeing it. So it was the office's decision just to bring everything to the planning board until the board decides they no longer want to see everything.
So
So you're right, Eric. You didn't always see these. We approved a lot of change of uses in the past.
so when you look at the regulations, the property just needs to be in compliance with the existing site plan. So for something like the Tainer outlets, since there is no change to the property when tenants cycle, if they are still in compliance with the existing site plan they have on file, they don't need to submit a new one. What we're running into is a backlog of properties that don't have site plans on file at
We
this
have
time.
very old properties downtown, but probably weren't even site plans when they first went in. And that's why there's the lack of site plans. I mean, I know it seems ridiculous to the building that's had a smoothie shop, and before that it had a secondhand shop, and before that it was something else, that there's no site plan. Well, they were all retail stores.
So there was no change of
There was
use.
no change of use, okay? But I would say that probably 9 out of the 10 buildings downtown have not had site plans. That would just be, that's a guess out of the blue. And it's because they're so old. Okay? All right. Is there anything else? Or, other than going into our workshop? Okay,
For proposed amendments.
thank you.
Those guys were here for that.
It's pure sport.
I'll see you over breakfast.
They could be vendors.
So,
They could be vendors.
Would it be worth using the town notification system in the new year to
I can't
remind?
hear with all the talking.
So we have the town notification system where we can send text and call alerts to residents who subscribe to it. Would it be worth sending something out in the beginning of 2024 reminding new and existing businesses that they need to register with town hall, reminding, multifamily property owners that they need to register as multifamily property owners, letting people know about the, site plan requirements? Maybe that's not the right medium, but
I don't think
I think we might need more awareness.
What we could do is we send out tax bills and every property owner gets them. And a lot of times we put a little newsletter inside there with informational things. And that's probably a good thing to make people aware. Then that hits the proper people, if you pay taxes, you own property and it applies to you. Might be
I
a good
fully
thing.
support that. I think that's a great idea. It's, as you said, even more targeted, especially since people may own property but not live in town. And so, awesome. Thank you.
So if they are going to come in and register, that will probably trigger a CO if we didn't know they were multifamily or they don't have a site plan, and that'll cause you're going to get a lot of applications through that. I mean, you're going to pretty much have to see every property that doesn't have a site plan. So, I mean, we'll be,
Or when it does change, because it says when it does change, if they need a certificate of occupancy,
right,
at that time, they should have
right,
one of those.
Right.
So whenever things change, then
Right.
we'll get everything back in order. So we do have those site plans on
Right.
file. So, and then we'll get it all cleaned up. If you could excuse me for a minute.
Okay, next,
I'm going to step off for a minute. I'll be right back. I forgot my glasses.
I usually carry an extra pair, John, but I don't have them today. All right, the next thing is our proposed zoning amendments. Did anybody come up with anything? Interestingly enough, I went last evening to the Lakes Region Planning Commission meeting, and we talked about, every town was talking about doing zoning ordinances. And every town mentioned that they probably were going to have a solar ordinance on their changes. So I just thought that was interesting.
Do most towns not have solar ordinances
Correct.
already? Okay.
Correct. Of all the towns that were there last night, we were the only ones that had a solar ordinance.
So currently, like, people could just strap solar panels to a shed and do whatever?
well, they needed a permit, but yes.
Yeah, and that's about it. The other thing that came up were master plans. I thought this was interesting. Some towns have no master plan whatsoever, or if they have it, they haven't looked at it, and the citizens don't seem to care. But the average age for master plans is 15 years. So people are not updating their master plans. And most people said, yeah, well, nobody seems really concerned about it. We take a look at it every now and then. One group said they look, every couple of years, they look at one section of the master plan and make any changes that they think are necessary. So
What's our age? Because I know I was on
ours
the
is
committee
10
once
years
and it
old.
didn't
10
never
years
get.
old. Yeah, we did one.
Yeah.
That was 10 years ago.
Okay.
So we were going to talk about looking at it and reviewing it. Oh, John, I won't wait till John. Leanne, were you going to say something?
I was just going to ask the board, since we do have one member of the public here with particular interest to the mixed-use 2 zoning amendment, I was just going to ask if the board was willing to move that one up first. If not, that's fine. That's number 8 on here. We talked about it at the last meeting. And
I think the meeting before too, didn't
and well, the meeting before I think was at the selectmen's level, but Mr. Bernard is here. If the board would like to hear from him, he has some ideas on framing that that zone for his property and some of the parameters he's come up with about it. Or you can go through them from one on down if you like. I just thought I would let you know that that is why he's staying.
Okay.
All right, that's fine with me to move it up. Does everybody else feel it?
Yeah.
John, Mr. Bernard is here, and he's concerned about number 8. Do you have a problem with us moving that up?
Mixed use too.
John's here.
You get glasses now.
I have some handouts for guidance.
Mixed use two is a new.
So, yeah, Christine, we talked about it briefly. I'll just tell you real quick. So that
I was on.
you were online, right? So that zone was passed in 2005 as a a petition warrant article. Thank you. Petition warrant article. It wasn't proposed by the town. So petition warrant article came forward in 2005 to create a mixed-use 2 district. It was for the Manville property at the time. And there was a second warrant article that if it passed to create this new district, that then the second petition warrant article was to place that piece of property in this zone. So the first one passed, so the zone was created, but the second amendment did not pass. So we have in our ordinance a district with nothing in it. So, and there's a very brief description in the ordinance of what it is. There's no like table of permitted uses, there's no, just says it's to allow a village type setting with flexibility to have a mix of residential and commercial on one property. Okay? And it's required to have city water, right? And sewage, right. Thank you, John. It's okay. All right. Okay.
If I may speak and go over what I'm proposing.
Okay.
Okay, so I think.
John, the mic.
Go to the. Again, my name is John Bernard, and I am interested in having a piece of property, 50 acres actually, put into a mixed use 2. And I have created the table of dimensional values so we can maybe get to the end of this and see if it's something that you can support or not. And if you look at the bottom line, which will be most interesting, it's talk about the zoning district when it's called the mixed use 2, obviously. And then it says with storage, the minimum acreage you would have to have is 15 acres. And the reason why we came up with 15 acres is because it has to be a village type setting in the mixed use 2. So if you had anything less than that, it would really be difficult to create a village type setting. And then if you go on, this is all kind of mundane until we get over to but I followed pretty much the mixed use zoning that we have now, as far as the setbacks and how much land, minimum coverage or maximum coverage would be 50%. And the maximum height, we said 50 feet. Now the next line, this is the one that really has all the meat and potatoes, which means everything. It says 4 units per acre. And then it says C note 11B. Before I go down to 11B, I'd like to just talk about how I came up with the 4 units per acre. That's what was approved in this town until 2007, I believe it was, or 2006. You were allowed in certain zones, particularly mixed use 2, mixed use 1 zones, you're allowed to have 4 units per acre. They changed that now, and we're down to where you can have 1 unit, 1 building house, 1 unit on 50 acres, which I think everybody feels like that's not very reasonable. And I think 4 units per acre is pretty reasonable. You have to take away wetlands and you take away, the requirements. But if we go down to 11B, and this one says 25% of multifamily units must have assisted living facility or 55 and older. So, the town is willing to do this. It should be for something for everyone is what I'm trying to do in this village type setting. So by saying you have to have 25% of it assisted living or 55 and older, I think we're including everybody. And then if you go down to 14, we added another line, mixed use 2. It must have a commercial component to it to create a village type setting. So all those things would be done with a master plan would have to be brought forward for the piece of property and brought before you, and we would discuss. But really, if we're going to follow what the mixed use 2 is, we really need to have some commercial use to it and some housing with it too. I'll sit down and just listen.
Comments, thoughts?
And open space, did you end up putting anything in for open space?
So I guess what differentiates it from like a gated housing community,
Can you speak up, please?
I'm guessing what separates it from a gated housing community is the sense that there is retail and other non-residential, properties, activities. So would it be, given that you're saying it would be focused at, assisted living or 55 plus, are you thinking more of like the multi-stage, like fully independent home care, hospital care type setting for this
Right.
type
So
use, or are you thinking
I understand where you're
more
going with that. Yep.
broadly, like community, like families and old people and some percentage of hospital services and healthcare services, but not entirely a retirement community, I guess.
Right, and I left that kind of broadly on purpose because of, a true assisted living facility usually has three different stages in it. You have the ones where people can come and go and they have their apartment cleaned and they don't have to, they have services for food and stuff. And then it goes to the next level where people, they need a little bit of help. They may have a little dementia or something like that. And then you go to the third level where people really can't do much of their own. Now, for me to attract somebody to go into that might be a little bit more difficult than just the first one that we spoke of, where people are assisted living in there. They have a dining hall in there. They have, a meeting hall. They have events, and then they have their own apartments they can go to. Now, if we do 25% of those have to be like that with 55 and older, I think that that's a good way to control it and make sure that it's not just designed for any one age bracket, but you incorporate everybody. And there are people in the town which really would like some assisted living facilities to be put in town. They're pretty hard to come by. So by doing that, I tried to incorporate it so this mixed use would be for everyone.
I think one of the reasons it initially came up too was that we have a lot of elderly people who've been forced to move out of town because they can't afford to pay taxes, so they can't continue to live in their homes. They wanted to stay in the Tilton community, but there was no assisted living facility, so they had to go to the closest one, which was like 50 or 60 miles away. I know
Right.
2 people in Sanborn who had to do that, as a matter of fact.
Yeah. It happens, you together, you have a spouse, you're fine with a house and you lose one and then the other one can't handle the whole house. So they need assisted living.
I guess this is more of a question for the board members, but for existing zoning, do we have age or like voucher percentage requirements?
We don't have an elderly ordinance, elderly housing ordinance, if that was the question.
Okay, so this would be the first
District that would,
district that would have any type of age
elderly
related
component,
or
correct.
do we have anything as far as like Section 8 or other type of assistance vouchers for developments?
Yeah, that's not in the ordinance, though.
Okay.
That's not an ordinance at all. It wouldn't be.
No, I'm not proposing that.
Scattered site.
Right, no, but just I wasn't sure if we had, an ordinance where, okay, any, housing over X units, whatever percentage must be voucher, or anything like that.
Well, we don't even have any multifamily housing anywhere in the town except for downtown. Downtown's the only district that allows any multifamily right now.
Well, I know the one on the corner of Morrison Ave and Main Street that's got 2 units in it.
Well, right,
Then
but
there's the other one.
But that's old, right?
Further past Grant Street on the right, there's like 6 units.
Right, but not anymore. The ordinance doesn't allow multifamily anywhere. I mean, they must be grandfathered.
Oh,
Right.
New development.
Yeah.
Right, new
Okay,
development,
Right.
right.
We haven't had any new multifamily in this town since 2006.
Because the ordinance changed, right? Like
That's
there's
right.
no
There's-
high density
There was
ordinances.
4 acres, it was 4 units per acre, and then they changed that. And once they changed it, it doesn't allow for it really anywhere except for downtown. And we already know what the issues are with downtown. I mean, it's a way of,
It's a lack of parking downtown.
yes, but it was a way of, preventing it from happening without saying we don't want it to happen. But that's really what happened. Let's just be straight up with it.
Yeah.
And, I'm not sure where to go with this, except for that, all municipalities are supposed to provide some reasonable and realistic opportunities for this, and we're not. But this gives us an opportunity to do it, but also control the growth, because if you approve it on just by going into mixed use too, and you have to have at least 15 acres of city water and sewage, it's not going to open the floodgates. There's very few properties that you have that really exist like that in the town. So it's another means of saying, okay, we think this is a good location. We're willing to do this. And really what I'm here to do is ask you if you're willing to move it forward to the town meeting, because we really can't make that decision here. It has to go to the town meeting. But if it's going to go to the town meeting and have a real chance of it, I really would need the the planning board's support. I can go by doing it with a petition, which the date is coming up on December 13th. But if I do it that way, then I won't be able to really work with the dimensional values or anything like that. I can just move to have it put into a mixed use too. And I'm not sure how that would work if it got approved. This way you have control over it and saying, this is what we want to approve. These are dimensional values. This is what. So I'm hoping that I can get everybody on board with this. And Lord knows the whole area is crying for housing and for workers. And there isn't any. Go ahead, John.
I'll just make one comment. The state of New Hampshire is committed to a goal of 8,100 workforce housing units in the next 10 years.
Aren't we like?
We can get ahead of that crunch or whatever, and we can solve needs right here locally now, as opposed to waiting till somebody up above us says this is what has to happen and go for it. So that's just my feeling about it. I'd like to throw that out. John?
So if I read this correctly, it's 4 units per acre and you're 50 acres?
Right, minus wetlands, minus the commercial, so you'd have to be taking it away. You start with that maximum amount, but it wouldn't end up there.
About how
So-
much do you think then?
So you're probably talking of maybe, you probably have 40 acres that would be eligible.
And you might want to consider a component of requiring open space.
So that would be 160 units. Now those 160 units, there would only be, what's 25% of 160?
40.
Would be 40.
Yeah.
So of 160, only 40 would be for 55 or older.
Right, and
So
go ahead.
And, I think it doesn't seem like it's solely focused on elderly.
It's
Yeah,
not, and I don't
yeah.
intend it to be. The elderly, believe it or not, and if you have assisted living, for every one of, I gotta make sure I get this right because I'm here on recorded. You need 25%. Let me get it right. I think you need 4 people to support each person that's in one of those. So a lot of the housing, and I'm not sure if I have that number correct. I had it last time. I had it written down. I don't have it in front of me.
Yeah.
So
Not gonna
if
hold
anybody
you
is
to
listening, I'm not saying this is exact, but a lot of those people that are living in there are going to be there to support the elderly. So let's say you said, I want 160 beds for the elderly. It would be impossible because we'd have, well, I wouldn't say impossible, but it would make the problem more difficult than what we're trying to solve. We're really trying to solve workforce housing, people that work, 2 incomes that are working. It's what you have to qualify these things. I got to be careful how I say this, but you would have to have so many people to support that. It would exacerbate the problem. It would make it worse than what we're trying to solve. So I understand where you're going with that, saying, hey, this isn't really directly taking care of just the elderly, but realize that those elderly people need a lot of workers.
So then it would supply 120 other housing.
Correct.
And are those apartments?
They would be. It would be done, would have their separate building for the 55 or older, or the assisted living would have their own building because they would need it. And then you would do the other ones in 3 different separate buildings. That's how you would do it. It has to be efficient. And again, I really learned a lot about this when my son had just moved out recently. And we went around and we looked at apartments from here to Nashua. He ended up in Nashua. And they're in really nice new apartments, and they're expensive. They're not cheap, but the really good thing about them is they're really energy efficient. His heating bill or AC bill has never gone over $100. So you pay more for it, but you have all the high technology that you get. And what it does, it gives you a ton of green space, which gives us a village type setting. And it makes it so it's much more affordable, because if we spreaded houses out over the whole thing, road infrastructure, impact, garbage collection, the whole thing. I hope I answered that.
Yeah,
But yes.
and just like it's 140 apartments that would be
correct.
going in there. And of that 140, there's no requirements for 55 plus nor elderly or anything like that.
Well,
They'd be just
if you only did 140, then 25% of it would have to be
Yeah.
them.
That's
So
a,
if the-
160, because based on your number, right, it comes out
Yeah,
to be
well,
160, and then you take the 4.
yeah, there's going to be some commercial in there, but I'm okay using that number. Even use whatever number you choose. We still have to make sure we have 25 for assisted living and 55 and older, whatever.
And I'm not against, but I just want to clarify, there is a
Yes.
lot of assisted living here. Their Peabody home just, I think, tripled their bed space.
I was down there. I
Yeah.
checked them out
It's
during this
beautiful.
process.
About time.
It is.
About time.
Yeah.
It was pretty bad down there, along with, there's also the Franklin Apartments. There's
Right.
the, was it Peabody Apartments?
Oh.
What's the one down by the church down there? You know what I mean? Is it Peabody's Place or something? Or Peabody Village? Something like
Where?
that. Yeah,
Now,
there's
what's the-
that.
the Methodist church? I mean,
Bell
in
Peabody.
Tilton?
Yeah, I think this one. Yeah. And then up in Franklin, up on the hill, you have that assisted living up there.
Right.
They're not assisted living. Those are
With
section 8
3,
type housing, elderly housing, and
Mhm.
not just elderly, they're
it's rehabilitation.
rehabilitation.
It's not Section 8, it's a nursing home.
Not a nursing home. Not behind where the soda shop used to be.
Oh, back
and
there. Oh, yeah. I was thinking
and right
further
down
down.
here.
So I have a
The elderly,
question
I mean, the veterans one that
to
they're building.
the percentages. So
Yes.
because it's specifically talking about multifamily unit housing, but if someone were to build a nursing home, would that not be considered commercial and not like a multifamily property?
I'm open to whatever, however you want to digest this and put this out, but that's
Well, because
fine.
it's a business, it's a commercial property, like it's not an apartment
Yeah.
per se.
Right.
So you could,
It's not allowed in certain zones, nursing homes are.
right, but so you could make the argument that like you could end up with
Permitted in
more
mixed use.
beds for
Yeah,
55
but you're not
plus.
talking about a nursing home.
No, we're talking assisted living. And I went to the Peabody home and there are 3 different levels of care that they have. The one that is sold out that you can't get into is the one that's truly assisted living. You have a car, you go there, it's an apartment, you go downstairs and you eat. You have any issues, they take care of it in your apartment and things like that. It's like a hybrid type of system, and that's what I'm proposing. I'm not proposing that I can put together a project that's going to have, take care of dementia and all those other issues. That's a whole next level. But we could put one in there if somebody wanted to come and build that facility. Again, you're outside of my world of expertise, and realizing that if I go to build these units, that I have to have so many that are going to be taking care of the 55 and older or the assisted living.
So I guess like, are you planning like just 4 buildings on
That's it.
that 50 acres?
That's
so
it.
just
4 buildings plus
large.
Yes, that's the only way that you can make them work today. They have elevators, they have 4 floors. They're very attractive from the outside. I've been to these, I've gone through them. That's the way that you have to do it to make them work nowadays. And like I say, they're all energy efficient. The heating systems are pretty cool in them too, but we don't really need to get into that stuff. But
Oh, okay. So like, if there were to be a mixed use 2 district and your property were to be placed in it, you would be looking to do this type of housing scheme, but then there would still be large amounts of undeveloped property in that mixed use 2
absolutely.
district that could then be used for single family homes, other
No, let me
businesses.
show you a plan that spells it out there quite easily.
While you're looking for that, John, just to clarify that if this went into mixed use, it would still require a master plan, because you have to remember theoretically, and I'm not trying to, blow up John here, but it could be put in mixed use and passed, and then in March and then in April, John could sell that property to you, Nate, and you might not have the same vision that he has. And that's why it's important, I think, that John did take the time to put together at least a rough draft of permitted uses and density requirements so that if he did sell it to somebody, they can't just, have, because if he does it as a petition warrant article, then you don't have the parameters, and that's where you don't know where this will land. But a master plan be required, even if you agree with what he's saying here, you're not approving. Understand, you're not approving his plan of, this is his vision. But just remember, it's all, just want to remind everyone, it's conceptual. You're not saying, yeah, I approve that he's going to do 10 buildings. It would require a master plan approved by the planning board. That's all. Just
all the stuff, but this is the green space that would be preserved, would have walking trails, define them. And actually, I'd like to go to the next step with these walking trails, where I've been to these places, they actually have paved walking trails. So the conservation lands over there set aside here, if you have it so a wheelchair accessible, people can really utilize it. But anyways, I want to get caught in that. I have the 3 buildings here shown, and we have a small commercial building
Are we
shown
supposed to
down
be
here,
reviewing a
so.
plan, though?
What?
Reviewing a plan today? We're supposed to just. Not a site plan or anything.
Okay,
No.
so
No, this is it's
how much
zoning
acreage is
amendment.
staying natural, I guess, then? Because it
Going
looks
over
like that's
30.
okay, so the vast majority of it.
2 acres, something like that. We're not gonna, whatever we have to do to make it work, and then the rest of it will go into green space. Yeah. And then no one could ever develop that again, it's done. I mean, this property will be used up.
Right, because if there's a master plan component,
It's
then it
done,
would
it's
be,
done. You've already used your green spaces, we've been to the conservation commission, we've been to the planning board, we've been everywhere, zoning board, whatever is required for us to do. And once that's approved, there's no houses gonna get stacked out through there, that's just built. Which is kind of cool, because this piece right here, this giant piece right here, is set aside when they did Home Depot, so that would connect to it. The green spaces would connect to already a piece of property that's been set aside when they developed Home Depot.
I have a question.
Go for it, Eric.
I'm just trying to grasp my head around this. So I'm just going to go with
Go for it.
25 acres, which means you could put 100 units in.
Okay.
So you can put 25 of those as assisted living, and that's it.
It gets a little bit more complicated
No,
than that.
no, hold on. Just follow my train of
Okay.
thought. So you have 25. So 25 that. Then you could also do 25 of 55 plus, correct? 25 units of 55 plus.
Yeah, you could.
And then the other 50 units are for anyone else.
Right.
If my kids grew up, want to live here, continue living in Tilton, and they had the money and they could afford it, because it would be whole ownership, or would it be rent? Like
These are rentals,
rental?
Apartments.
Okay.
apartments.
So someone could come in and I saw an apartment online, $2,000 a month. So whatever that.
Right.
that's-
They don't have to be, but that's
No, I know.
Right.
I'm just, but
So-
no, I
so-
know, but I'm just trying to get around.
the only hole that I see in what you just discussed is that this is only for village type settings. You have to have some commercial.
Yep.
So you wouldn't, even if you had the 25 acres, you're not going to be able to get 25 units. It's not going to happen. You have to have a commercial. You have to have this is just to approve for mixed use 2, which requires it to be a village type setting.
Which is why you have to have the master plan.
That's correct. You got it. Which has to be approved by you guys, and I'm sure that would be a pretty lengthy process.
Chairman?
Jane.
So one of the things that benefits we have to belong to Lakes Region Planning is they assist with this type of thing and wording and doing that. And I think we should consult with them to make sure that
Don't
they,
have the personnel, Leanne.
I did contact Lake Regional Planning and asked, and they do not have any staff right now.
they just sent us a letter saying that they offer that.
Right, but they don't have any staff. I spoke to 2 people there, and they said they can, if we had something, they could give us some input, but they have a part-time planner right now, and if I had some specific question on ordinance, she could help, but that's what I was told.
Mm-hmm.
the service is available, but the wait time is longer than expected.
In conclusion, What I'm hoping is I can get a commitment that you guys are willing to bring it forward, maybe not in this exact form, but in some form, because I have a deadline that I can do it by petition by December 13th. I prefer not to go that route. So I'm hoping that maybe there's a vote that we're willing to do something, because if I let that date pass, then I'm out to lunch.
So I guess what is
I
like
can't hear you.
what is required beyond the table of dimensional values in order for us to like define a district? I'm assuming it's going to be
I think you
dozens
would
of
need
pages and
a narrative that would explain the purpose of the zone. More specifically, you need to look at, he started to look at the dimensional values. You need to put together permitted uses table to see what you're going to allow in that district. Um, which again,
do
I
we
know
have
that he did some of that work.
materials?
I'm sorry?
When did we last create a district, and do we have materials from when that happened? Or
There are other towns that have mixed-use districts that you can look at as guidance. A lot of towns look at other, I know some towns have 3 and 4 different mixed-use districts like this with village settings. There's quite a few of them out there. You can use that as a template if the board is interested in drafting this. I think the decision that I think John's looking for is just to know if he writes a petition warrant article, is this something that this board is looking to do, or do we take it off the table? So we know we don't want to work on it. I mean, I could work on it, but I'm not gonna work on it and have it,
But mixed use 2 was already approved, you said,
Right.
with nothing in it.
Right.
So what did they define mixed use?
That's right. I have it right here. It's just one paragraph.
Looking for.
It's on page 31 of your ordinance. I can read it to you if you give me 1 second.
And at that time, they didn't put it on the dimensional values or the.
Well, no, because it was a petition warrant article. So the resident, whoever did it, the developer said, we're going to create this district very broadly and then put their property in it, which is similar to what, John's doing, although John's trying to take it a step further. And it didn't pass, so we have no land in it. But so mixed use 2 is designated to accommodate a variety of residential, retail, institutional, recreational, and service uses in an integrated, planned, village-like setting where water and sewer services is available. This district was approved in March of 2005, but it is not shown on the tax maps for the town of Tilton, as no land has been approved for the district at the present time. That's what it says. That was passed.
So since it's approved, we're just defining it? Is that what the zoning or this number 8 is for?
No, number 8 is for actually placing Mr. Bernard's property. He's looking to put his property into this district, so then it will become a viable district on our maps. So he's looking to put 246 Laconia Road. So that would be one vote. That would be a petition warrant article to actually put the land in a new district. So right now it's resort commercial, correct me if I'm wrong, John?
It is resort commercial, right?
You would put that property in that district, but that would be ill-advised if you're not going to expand on the district. Otherwise, now you just have a piece of property that can pretty much, you're going to be sitting here saying, well, what can they do? I guess they can
So we'd
do.
have,
So that is a 2-step if you decide to go forward.
so this would require that we go through and amend our zoning ordinance to include all the definitions of it, because I don't
Right.
think the definitions are in there. And
Similar to when you do with solar, you added all those
very
definitions. You added
specifically decide all of the principal uses
Correct.
in the chart, what would be allowed, whether permitted, special exception, or not permitted. All that stuff would be a separate warrant article that we'd have to do. And that's the tough part,
Right.
getting all that right, because you're also looking at.
I worked through the chart of permitted uses, and I went through those with Leanne and made sure that they were in keeping with what the the zone was. So I'm trying to help to work to getting it to that point where we know exactly what we're moving forward with.
One of the, as Leon mentioned before, one of the best ways to find some of this stuff is look at other towns and what they have
Absolutely.
for that similar type of changes to their zoning ordinance and adopt many of those and look
Great.
at them. So
Yep.
that, especially if they've been in place for a while, and that way set some type of precedence, and we can talk to the people in those communities or the zoning board and ask, how's it worked for you? You know, what changes would you make? And those are the things I would think that, you know, we pay for Lakes Region Planning to help us with that, but they're ghosting.
Yeah,
So-
I don't
so-
like checked that out
yeah.
last night.
So
This is gonna take some time.
We don't have time.
So I know in Cape Cod in Massachusetts, due to housing and staffing shortages, there were numerous businesses that were purchasing motels and multifamily houses solely to provide housing to workers that they were trying to bring there for the summer tourist seasons. It almost seems like the problem that we really have is resort commercial district. If you want to put in a resort, that's going to have 50 guests, you can't put workforce housing
Right.
on that property for the employees to, provide those recreational, support services. So maybe the real solution here is we need to be updating the existing district, the commercial, what's the other half of it? Yes, so the resort commercial district, since if you are providing resort services, you typically need a large amount of staff. So maybe we should be looking at a way to allow workforce housing to be constructed on these resort commercial properties so that if, like, what is it? The place on the water, the preserve. I'm not sure how many employees they're going to need.
200.
I'm not sure where they're currently looking to house them, but if they had space to build, 50 one-bed tiny homes, that's potentially 100 couples that could live and work at the resort. And then you're potentially looking at, people who don't need to own a car because they don't need to commute to work.
Right.
And maybe, a resort, an entity that large can provide bus or, shuttle services for its employees to go to, the Tainer outlets and Walmart and stuff like that. So, I mean,
I agree
maybe
with
it's
you.
more
That's,
workforce housing changes to existing zones.
I think that would be a great looking forward thing. The other thing is if you have first responders here, you have the police, you have the fire, then you want to provide them with living within the community. There isn't a lot of options for them right now. Teachers, nurses, this place will provide that for us. So I understand your concept that you have there to take care of the ones, especially when you start talking about the preserve with 200 employees, which blows my mind. But I still think we need to make sure that the town is taken care of where there's the first responders. We need the nurses. We need the teachers. This is where these people are going to go. If we can attract them.
No offense, John,
Yep.
but we have so much work to do. And I know you've been here 3 times to
Right.
talk to us about it. I think we understand, but we need to work on this.
Okay. I'm
And we
fine
can
with
talk about all the problems, and we got to keep in mind that
So,
this is what we need to work on.
Right.
And Madam Chair,
so I just want to focus on this
order.
one thing is that if we don't decide this, then I go through a petition, but I'd still like to work to create the dimensional values. Or if you say, we think we can do it by then, and I'm happy. I'm just looking for a decision for the board to decide, or maybe take a vote if they're willing to move forward with this. I'm not saying in this exact form.
Okay, John. Thank you. All right, how does the board feel about moving forward,
What was the question?
moving forward with John's plan?
I think we need to discuss it.
I think we
I
do
think there
need
needs
to,
to be some research,
yeah.
discussion.
need to start cracking down, get some stuff and some information, what it
He's
would
on a
look
time
like.
crunch.
Well, the only opportunity you have to discuss this is our next meeting.
Mhm.
And the next meeting, the day after that meeting is the deadline for
Ah,
petition. Is it petition warrant articles? Yeah.
I mean, could any member of the town propose a warrant article to make a modification to a zoning district?
Petition.
You need a petition of 25 registered voters.
That's what he just said. He didn't want to do that.
And the other thing is even if you did do that and we're still working on it, can they withdraw that?
I think once it's placed, kind of like once you place your name on a ballot, and I would have to check that, but I believe that you can't withdraw. Once it's put forward,
That's
I'm pretty
what
sure,
I'm-
like, again, like once you put your name forward, even if you want to withdraw, you're on the ballot.
Right.
And I think the articles are like that, but I can check
into
with
that.
an attorney.
No,
Because,
I'm pretty sure
you
that's
know,
the way it is, John.
if you know anything like, that's a big change. We should do it properly and do it right and not hastily and get it. But if we can do it, we can. And if there's a possibility putting that warrant article forward, I mean, the petition forward and then withdrawing it would be a good way to do it. I just don't feel comfortable saying tonight, yeah, your changes are great, and doing it without even looking at anything else yet.
But I understand.
Yeah.
So what I'll have to do, I guess, in this case, is that I'll go back to your next meeting. I'll also get a petition. I'll have it ready to submit. Hopefully I won't have to.
Yeah.
Hopefully you can make. And again, you can still make changes. Your deadline is much different than mine. Mine's December 13th. Yours is January.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's in
Yeah.
January.
Okay.
Thanks for your time.
All right, thank you.
Yeah, and I think there's some hearings that come up for that, or
Yeah,
two
we have to
hearings
have
for
two
it.
hearings. Right,
You can get that too.
okay, so it was, on these, we're definitely gonna do the solar ordinance, is that correct?
I can correct everything that right now. We can take care of it. Doesn't need any changes, doesn't need to be on the warrant or anything.
Okay,
And I can do it with a couple motions real quick. If we go and look at, and then that's off the list. Let me get reorganized here. So I looked up where's my marked up one? So if you look on page 72, the error that we're looking at was,
okay, I got it right here.
I know I wrote it down. I'm sorry. I'm organizationally challenged. It was a long day. I was up in Berlin all day. So look, 72. Why is that different? That's fine. Pages don't match. Okay, so looking at the chart of uses, there was a whole bunch that was omitted from the original warrant article that should have been on here. It was originally in the zoning regulations, but somehow it got removed and out of there. So that one is now put back in there. There's, yeah. So,
Good night,
Right.
Aaron.
oh, here we go. So what I don't understand is on the one you gave me last week, it's page 74. And the other one I have here is page 72 now.
Yeah, I pulled it up online. It says 72.
And the one here,
It's
see that?
72 on mine.
There's a solar easement on page 74, that's
Review
it.
process for solar energy systems.
The one you gave me last week.
No, I know, but what are you looking at? What's the paragraph start with?
Review process for solar energy systems. It's a chart. It's on 72.
Right, it's on page 74.
Well, that's on page 74, but
So we
the,
can change that CB zone, right?
Just eliminate that whole paragraph there, except for site plan review, and put all zones.
Have it marked up on that sheet.
Yeah.
That's how the amendment is to.
Freestanding. And then, yeah, and then there's typographical, because those zones don't exist.
Right.
And if you look at the chart of use, do you have the chart of use for solar?
So
Okay.
we're gonna take this whole thing on,
Yep.
just, it's gonna say all
Special
zones?
exception in all zones.
Okay.
Because that matches, if you look at the chart of uses that was approved back in 2002, 2020, I'm sorry, 21.
It says on the.
Okay, so this chart is very difficult to edit. So that needs a little bit cleaning up. So if you look on energy uses under D in the chart of permitted uses, and then you look at multifamily or non-residential solar energy system accessory uses. And then you look at freestanding, it says all the way across S, special exception needed. So this chart
there's-
here,
there's 4 that say N.
Under freestanding?
Yeah.
Well,
And
that's,
then,
we just gave him this and it says S.
Yeah.
No. Oh, there's 2 freestanding, so there's a 4 and a 7.
that's weird.
Well, I don't know why
okay,
there's 2.
so
See, right here. 4 says S's and then 7 has.
yeah, this
N's
is
and
all,
S's.
this chart was just re-added in, but it's messed up according to what was.
And then 5 doesn't have
voted.
anything.
Yeah.
5 is blank, yeah.
So is 2.
Okay, so 5,
And 2.
that's, okay. So if you look where it says 5, those numbers shouldn't be there. That's actually a title of it. The numbers shouldn't be there. It should be freestand, yeah.
Like this shouldn't
These
be
shouldn't even be there, yeah. So, and then
under
this
enterprise
is 2 shouldn't even be there. That is,
Oh, I see.
so 2 is actually
A subtitle.
a subtitle, and then
Roof
3 and
freestanding.
4,
Okay.
roof and freestanding. So if you go over,
So one is single family, or
Yeah.
duplex residential, solar energy,
Mhm.
multi-residential, that's all one category?
no,
No.
I think I sent you a copy of what it originally was when it was passed as an
Yeah, I
article.
have that. Okay, 'cause
Okay.
it's getting pasted in weird.
Yeah,
So if
the
you do 1
formatting
and
and the
2,
editing.
Then 3 and 4 can be AB. Then 3 is actually going to
Or-
be enterprise and then AB. If you want to do
Yeah.
it that way, if you're going to do numbers. So it'd be
Yeah, like-
1,
like
2,
here.
AB, 3, AB.
Like this.
Yes. So this should be 1, 2, 3, A.
Mhm. I don't know if you want to pass that down.
You guys, you want to see, guys?
Yeah.
So if, under that, if you look on that corrected sheet where it says multi-unit residential or non-residential system accessory use, including shared systems, and what does it say for freestanding?
Special.
Special, yeah. So this is the, a little bit better. That's the way it should, that chart there should read
This
to
is the
reflect
proposed change on
what
that one.
was in the chart of uses.
So I guess my question is, Do we have a copy of the last printed version of the?
It's what was approved by legislative body at the vote.
That's what she added in. It's just the numbers are a little
The,
off.
the numbers got shifted in the
Formatting.
converting from Word to Google. You're good at this. You could probably help out.
Yeah, no. So I would.
Yeah,
I
and you
would
know how it
love-
automatically changes things to bullets? And that's what happened. So that's what confused it. The chart of uses is what was voted on by the legislative body, as well as that paragraph there. However, that paragraph was a error. It included zones that don't exist. So that paragraph
Comes out. It's
needs
all
to be
zones.
changed to reflect the chart of uses. And it doesn't need to go to the legislative body because it was an error in grammatical.
Got it.
And then that would all be, then we're done with the solar.
So we don't have to bring that to town meeting.
John,
No.
Right.
John,
Okay.
Yeah.
what about Tilton Solar?
That was all done before, and approvals, I believe it was all before,
Was it approved?
I'm not sure. I think it came in before we did the solar thing. So I couldn't, I don't know when their permits got approved or when all of that, but it would be special.
It would be a special under this?
You can see, this is what we all voted
Right.
on. It's, the problem is, as Nate could probably explain, when you convert from a Word document to a Google document, some of the formatting and the paragraph lines and the bullets don't convert right. So that's all messed up. So if you look at that chart there, what does that say right there?
That says multi-unit residential or non-residential systems, including shared systems.
Then the problem that we pointed out is that these, that's all scribbled out,
Yep.
those were the wrong zones. Those weren't even existing
Yeah, so
zones.
now they have to have a special,
Yeah, on this, okay, so this is better. Oh, I love it. So freestanding,
what's that mean?
It's like
It's a rack
on
on the side
stilts
of
or
your
whatever.
If you go up Hampton Road by the Abbott property, they have a freestanding out in their field.
Okay, that's a freestanding unit. And that's only limited to,
So we just have
that
to
unit
vote
is
on
only
this one?
limited to that property? He can share that?
well, I'm not sure what that is up there. I didn't look at.
The B went over
Where,
there. though,
Abbott's
the B
farm is.
goes over
Yeah.
there, Yeah.
I'm
this
not
one.
So I
sure
mean,
what that is.
Oh, so they
But
didn't
if
even
we're
number
looking at this,
as
okay,
one.
multi-unit
Two.
residential
Yeah.
system,
Okay.
multi-unit non-resident solar system, accessory use, okay?
Yeah.
Okay.
they're bold, but this one's.
That should
No, 'cause this
read
is
this,
just its
which is
own subject.
freestanding S's all the way across. It should
Oh,
read special exception in
Okay.
all zones.
Okay, yeah.
And that's what found was the problem,
Yeah.
that didn't match
These
the
numbered in
approved
the
chart of
chart of
uses.
uses.
Okay, thank you.
Got it, but-
Yeah.
So do we just have to vote?
Makes
on
sense.
this
I don't know
or
what's going on.
Agree
No,
with John?
So
It doesn't have to go to town meeting,
No.
because it's
Well,
already been voted
the
on.
change of that paragraph left.
What?
The
No, it
change of removing that paragraph left.
No, we're not removing, we're correcting incorrect
Because it was.
information.
No, not this, not what you're talking about now, but the page 74. Take all that out and
It's
make it.
down there. He said that
No,
was just to
that-
correct it. And that-
Yeah, that's, I checked into that and that's
It's
all that's
down there.
required
Somebody's
because
got it down there.
we're not changing the
I think
ordinance.
Tom has it.
There's,
To take this out?
yeah.
We're not changing the ordinance. The permitted uses are all in here.
No, I
And
know.
those don't even exist. You don't have to go to town meeting to approve those.
I have to disagree, but you guys, even if you're making a correction, you just write that the proposed amendment is a correction. That's what I understand is the law, but, again, you guys can.
so I guess we have the last version of.
The last version had those wrong. I do think that one paragraph we should change to all zones. I think that's supposed to go to town meeting, but I can check with the
It
attorney
doesn't
if you like.
change anything in the ordinance though, because the chart of uses
Right, no, I understand that.
is,
Yep,
My thing is just like, if these are all like, or primarily like copy paste translation issues, we should be able to look at, the previous version
right,
of
that's what I
the
just gave you.
document, and
Right.
then look at the current version, look at what passed at the last town meeting, and then just
so
fix what was
regardless, that
mistranslated.
would be the right way. So if it does
Right.
require it, then so be it. If not, I'm going to make a motion that we change them according to that. And if required, they do go to the town meeting.
I do agree with John that the chart was voted on and just needs to be corrected on the website and in the books to be laid out correctly because of the way it's printing. My only question is on removing the,
Is to the chart. That was approved.
no, I understand that. No, I just said that.
Yeah.
I just said that. The chart, I understand, just needs to be fixed on the website and in the formatting of the printing that it was voted on. So I have the amendment right there. If you're going to get rid of any wording, I believe you have to go to
Well,
town meeting, but
we're
that's
not
fine.
making any changes to what zones it's allowed in or anything like that. That was, but,
No,
so my motion is to alter that, to change to reflect what's written on there, provided it's allowed. If not, we'll put it to go to town meeting and then that will be done.
I second that. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay.
So I guess a clarifying question: if something was voted on and approved, and then there was a typo when the document was created, do we need to vote on correcting the typo, or?
No, but if there was a typo in the original, voted document, or it listed a zone in that little paragraph that we said we're going to say all zones that we don't want, then if you're taking that out, I believe that needs to be, because that's what was voted on, was that document. Any change to the original document that was voted on needs an amendment. But John's
Okay,
right.
so
If we are correcting our own editing in our file, then we're just fixing our own document.
okay.
Yeah. So my motion allows
Right.
for both ways. Either
Correct, yeah.
If we can fix it, we will. If not, we'll put it in there for the warrant.
Because whatever you decide tonight, then it has to be put in the draft form, then it has to come back to you, and then it has to go to a public hearing before it goes to the ballot. You're not deciding whether to put this on the ballot right now. You're just writing the proposed
The
ordinances,
yeah.
and then it'll come back to you for a public hearing.
We have this as a Google Doc, correct? Like the entire
No,
ordinance?
no, I have this as a Word doc.
Okay, but we have the
Yeah,
entire.
I have it right here.
Okay, all right.
I just handed it to you. This is the original document that went to the voters and is on file with the town clerk. Yeah, this,
Okay, let's move along, because we're
Number
gonna be here
2.
all night.
This is a lot.
What? Well, I think we need to do all of these, and I think that's what we need to decide.
or not, or decide you're not doing it and we'll just cross them off.
So I think number 10, tiny houses, is probably a priority, just due to the fact that the state has set regulations, and so we need to, I'm not sure if we need to like formally recognize them, or even if we're just taking what the state has said word for word, does that need to go into our zoning, or are people expected to just look at the town zoning and then also look at all the state zoning?
I think what we have to decide, do we want to address tiny houses as an ordinance? I think that's a question.
It's a
don't
big
feel-
ordinance, because you got to decide where you're going to put it.
You know, I think a lot of these things were in the 11th hour to do it, and we got to be careful. These can make major changes. We have a master plan. We should be going and looking at that and reviewing it. This is something you should be starting in June, you know, to get these things going.
Short-term rentals, Airbnb, I think we need to have something on that, because they already exist.
Yes.
Yeah, you know how many people are doing Airbnbs and they're.
I mean, at the very least,
Basements or they're this,
Yeah.
it's unbelievable.
It's,
at the very least, we could require anyone doing Airbnb to register like a multifamily, rental as we already do. So that might be
It's not necessarily
But it might-
multifamily. It could be, I could
No.
rent my house on Airbnb.
right. No, but we would require that, so we require multifamilies to register with the town and, CO and that kind of stuff. And so we
Well,
could
let's
just
decide
update
what
that.
we need
Yeah.
to do before we start talking about how we need to do it. So does everybody agree we need to do Airbnbs?
Yes.
Yep.
I'll make a motion. Or do we have to make a motion or
No,
disagree?
we're
No.
just.
No,
gonna
we're
do
just-
Okay,
Consensus.
so I'm encircling that. We've done solar, thank you, John.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Um,
so to tackle that, does somebody want to grab it by the horns and look at other towns? I think,
Tackle
Leanne,
what?
you've probably seen a lot of that on other
Airbnb,
towns where
oh.
Airbnb.
I haven't seen a lot of it, because coming from southern New Hampshire, it isn't as big an issue, because we don't have up here in the Lakes region, and I'm not as familiar with the Lakes region as I am more with southern New Hampshire, and we didn't really butt up. I mean, no one's renting an Airbnb in Bow and Hooksett, But, Meredith, I know, has. Laconia just wrote one. I know there's a lot of the communities in up here that have tackled it and are tackling it. So I think you can find some.
And one of the nice things is if we can find those, as Lynn stated earlier, we can use a lot of their language, put something together, and these can go in draft form. And then when we have a public hearing, we can go and change that and tweak it. But we really need to start moving on it, and probably either one or a couple people kind of take that on.
Does land use or code enforcement have the ability to fine individuals financially?
Financially?
Like, if someone is in violation of XYZ, is there like a
To fine them
monetary
financially.
fine associated with any of our
You
zoning?
have to go to court.
Yeah, and we have to have an ordinance and something to show that there is a fine and establish everything for it. So you have to have a reason to fine them if it is. And
But like, so do we as a department currently have fines for any type of violations?
many, yeah.
Okay, so we could, potentially propose something where it's like, okay, failure to register as an Airbnb, first offense, fine of X, and then, second offense, fine of Y, third offense, whatever, just in terms of like enforcement.
That's the kind of thing we want to do in an ordinance, is it?
No, I think
Well, I mean,
we just want to figure out which ones we want to tackle.
Yeah, so we're
So we're
doing
gonna-
short-term
we're gonna do that.
Airbnb.
Yeah, Airbnb. I think we need to tackle the permitted use for non-commercial raising livestock and
What
fowl.
number is that, John?
And that's
Number
number
4.
4. Only because we've had it come up in the past.
Okay,
So 9's, we said yes for that?
yes,
Number 4.
Yes for 9.
Number 4.
Okay.
Non-commercial raising and keeping of livestock.
Well, the chickens are the chicken.
Oh,
Livestock
I
is
remember
a
my
chicken.
very first planning board was about a rooster, and I'm
On
like,
somebody's
is this what
roof?
This is about?
Oh,
Was there somebody with one on their
It was
roof
so
or something?
no,
Yeah.
there was one of them around, was it Mountain View? Someone had
So
chickens.
is everybody yes to number 4?
Well, and this could be as simple as,
Yes.
for now, just adding it in the permitted uses because we have a line, I think that's what I was putting here, like we have a line for permitted livestock in like agricultural district, but we don't, but fowl is not considered livestock. So I would say like maybe we don't allow it in downtown, but you allow up to 6, anywhere else or whatever we want to do. But it's just to put it as, so if someone calls and says, I'm buying a house and, can I have chickens,
And a, and a cow.
and a cow, right?
Where is,
So 4 and 9. Next.
so I guess where is like fowl not defined as
Nowhere
livestock?
in the definition, in definitions.
Okay, so the definition of livestock that we have in our zoning.
Right. Or
So
in the UNH, we usually follow UNH best management practices for this and on what is allowed, even if livestock's allowed, we then go to UNH, has a chart on how many you can have per acre so that you can't have an acre of land and have, 50 cows, for example. So there's a chart that tells you how many you can have per acre of different categories. And then poultry and fowl is its own separate animal, so to speak. It's not considered part of livestock.
Because we haven't added it there, or because we have it in a different
Because
section?
it's not livestock. It's just not livestock. It's chickens. It's like a dog is not like a dog is not livestock. It's a domestic animal. Chickens are not livestock. They're
So
fowl.
we
I was
changed
just-
our definitions in the front
We
of,
can put a definition of what fowl is. Yeah.
Okay, yeah, because I wasn't, because I know our definition of multifamily is not the actual definition of
Right.
multifamily, so I wasn't sure if it was a industry thing or if it was, we've defined livestock very specifically.
I always look to UNH Cooperative for their agricultural guidance.
How do you feel about looking at number 3?
So that's pretty important, I think, especially if you're looking to limit those areas, particularly the village district. This has come up now twice before the zoning board, conversion of multifamilies or single family to a multifamily. You're allowed to convert any existing residential structure to a multifamily with no dwelling limitation right now. So I think this may have been an error at some point. I did go back and look at when this first was found in the zoning ordinance, and it had 4-unit maximum. And then somewhere around 2011, it just disappeared. There was no ordinance to change it, but it just kind of fell off. So there was no 4-unit maximum. So I guess my question to this board is that something you want to put back? I'm guessing it was just an error.
Yeah.
Administrative error taking it off because I didn't see an amendment to remove it. But maybe if you want to put it back, you don't want 4, maybe
Yeah,
you
we
want
wanna put it
6
back.
or.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, so I don't think like we need to, that's just a typo. That is
Well,
in
I
the
don't-
last version, it said 4. In the current version, that's omitted. So if
I know,
there's
but you can't
nothing-
now just put it back because nobody was here when it was taken off. I don't think you can just
well, what was it approved for originally by the legislative body?
I'd have to go way back.
So if it was approved for 4 originally, we have to do that. Unless
put
we
it back
change
as
We
4?
have to put
Yeah.
it back.
Nobody
That's-
remembers it ever being changed?
I don't.
So I mean, wouldn't there be record at the town meeting from the vote if there was a modification made? Like,
Yeah, if anyone else wants to help out and look through that history, they can go through all the town meetings and look for where that was changed. It's not there now,
What year was it last year?
Around 2011, she said it's
I think.
around, yes.
It's easier just to put it back in.
Because, we're also missing, we can look in the annual reports would have all the amendments, I would think, pretty accurately.
Yeah,
Or
they-
actually, the true record is in the clerk's office. because, somebody could have not put it on the town report by accident too.
We can guess at it, but I think
Right.
we should look at the true records and make sure we get it straight.
Excuse me?
Aren't the minutes in the annual report for the previous year's meeting?
Yes. The minutes.
Yeah,
but,
isn't that the
this
true
wouldn't
record?
have happened, no, this would have been on an ordinance.
Okay.
I mean, I think
Yes.
it's worth,
Doing the research.
yeah, I mean, if we could get all of everything that was passed at the, town meeting going back to 2010, that would probably be appropriate. Because I'm assuming,
Yeah, all the
There's
town
less than
reports
a
are
dozen.
online. If anybody wants to take the time to read through them, they're all online. If you look
Yeah.
through all the zoning amendments, you probably could
We
go
can
back.
split them up to a
volunteering?
couple years. What year did
yeah,
we
I
start?
haven't been able to
I'm sorry,
find
Year did
that.
it start, you think?
did this a little while ago.
Because I was thinking if it's
I
10
think I
years-
went back to 2000. I don't think it was 99. I think I went back to 2000. I think
You
I
know,
went back 20 years. No, I found it there consistently with a 4-unit way back, like in 99, 2000. And then I think it was around, 2008 or 9, it just didn't say 4 anymore.
Okay, so we only have probably 10 years of doing it, and if everybody takes, we have 5 of us, everybody look through 2 of them.
So I mean,
or
if
something like
I
that.
can,
2 annual reports?
Mhm.
Okay.
well, I would assume all of the changes passed at the town meeting are on like a single page or in a single packet, correct?
The town
They're
warrant's
in the
on
town report.
In the town report.
Once a year.
The-
which is a-
They're not always on the same page every year, just how it got printed.
Yeah.
They just print them in the town report.
The town report, the warrant is written in there and how the vote went for it.
Correct.
And also in the minutes from the previous year, town report, the minutes are in there. So if you look through, you can see, was there a change? If there were no changes, it was
We'll just
just
put it back.
we can put it back.
And what John's is saying is
If there was a
reducing the
change.
burden to one person, everybody takes years.
So I mean, it may be a good idea to have a folder somewhere that's just a file for each year of what was
It's online.
approved.
We're
They're
going to
all-
be buried in paperwork.
We do. I do have a
You know-
file. I have a file of all the zoning ordinances and changes. Some are missing, some are duplicates, some pages are missing. I mean, we put it together when I came. I said, it's a file right here of every going back as far as I had. Some pages are missing, some aren't. Sometimes for some reason I don't have 2000 in there. So I just think the most comprehensive is the town report, because the town report, we've got every town report online. You can go through this file of paper that's, some of it's handwritten back in 1970 something. Yeah, we do. We have a file. And the town clerk is required, that's why I said, they have the actual record. The town clerk is supposed to have every ordinance and every vote that was, because they have the town meeting record. They're the official record.
Everything that was on the ballot.
That's
the
why we have a
official
date.
ballots
We have to
filed.
get, these amendments have to be to the town clerk by a certain date for her to put in the safe on record. That is the governing record. Yeah.
So if we started at 1999
And went forward, you should
and
be.
went
yeah.
forward and everybody take,
Well, whatever year you first see pick a year, and if the 4's there, then go forward until the 4's not there anymore.
They're
In the
all
town
online.
clerk's office. Oh, the town reports? Online, and I have some in my office. I don't have them all.
So they're all available online.
No, I know.
And then the official copy, the originals, are kept with the town clerk. And then if
From
each
the
person
election.
takes 2 years and looks at those, then we'll go through all 10 years.
Give me 2 years.
2 to the guy with the glasses on the end.
Yeah?
1999, 2000.
Okay.
I'll do 2000, 2005.
Oh, look at you.
You said 5 years.
He took on 5 years.
2005 to 2010.
All right. We're going to be good here. Eric? Want 2010, 11, and 12?
Yeah, sure. I'm already looking at 12. What am I looking up anyway? Oh
So
my God, I was busy looking.
Eric,
I
we're
think
doing
the other,
business here.
the other one
I'm
that
looking
made,
at town report.
the other one that
Look.
made,
You don't have to do it now.
the other one that may be a simple one
You
is
want 11
the,
and 12?
Sure.
the
11 and 12,
excavation
13 and
regulations.
14?
I'll do 15, 16.
I think
All right.
we
And
definitely need to
anybody
address
else can
7.
feel free to go outside the boundaries
Yeah.
and double check any other.
Email us so I don't have to do it for no
The,
reason.
for
Big scavenger hunt. Let's see who finds it
for
first.
amendments, I think
Okay,
we need
so
to do
yes
something
to
about
3.
7, the certification of occupancy. Because
I-
that's
I-
the,
What are we looking at?
Well, I said excavation regulations. I mean, the
Number
the thing
6?
is, we don't want to have so many of these that people come to vote and throw up their hands and don't even look at them.
hmm
So I don't think we should just keep, we should decide how many we're gonna have and what the most important ones are and move with those instead of,
Yeah, and maybe like John said, anything that we don't do, maybe we can start earlier and the long ones work on for next year,
Yeah.
right? Keep them on the table and bring them up every once a month or every couple of months and, you know, put them on the agenda. So 5 came up at a zoning board meeting. I'll just tell you that was the history on that it came up as a question.
5.
So 5, yeah, came up at a zoning board meeting. So that's why that's on there. And again, it's your purview whether that's something you want to address. Maybe that's something we'll look at in the future. It's not as hot as some of the other, I think, issues we've already talked about. So I would probably lean towards maybe putting that one off to maybe look at in the future. Excavation came up quite a bit this year because we had a lot of big projects. It'd be nice to have something for the zoning board to look to kind of guide or direct the developer with issuing those permits. I can also get you copies of some other towns that have a little more in-depth excavation requirements, if that's something you want to do.
Could you do that for us so we can?
Yep, I'll put me down by that one.
I know you need a permit to remove anything, but you don't need a permit to bring something in.
Yes, you're not even allowed to bring something in.
Well, down on March Road, a guy brought a lot of fill in this summer,
Right, well,
you know? I mean, he brought triaxle dump loads of fill. And he just brought in several loads of crushed stone.
Is that the one that's for sale now?
No, it's next to it.
Okay. I've seen that.
And, you know, this is a problem where that could be hazmat. We don't know what that stuff is. I think it came from an excavation in some other town. And he brought it in and he spread it. I went by there one day and there's the triaxle trailer on its side. And I said, uh-oh, there's a guy crushed underneath it. And I went over there and he was sitting in the bulldozer, shaking like a leaf. Thing just went right over. The wheels
It says here that it's permitted.
to bring material in? Okay.
It says topsoil or loam purchased from another locality and
Good.
brought into the town of Tilton for the purpose of resale
For purpose
is
of resale.
permitted.
Oh, the purpose of
However-
resale.
Yeah, he
Yeah.
wasn't selling.
Okay.
So just a little history on that. The problem is with the invasive species and contaminated earth and materials, bring them in to town. And that's the big thing. We've had a couple places where they've loamed their whole lawn, put all kinds of stuff, and then all of a sudden it's all knotweed. And that's a DES issue, you know, and it's a state, it's a problem. And why? And the other thing is topsoil is very valuable.
Right.
And people, even if they take 15 acres and scrape 3 inches off of the top, then it goes out of town. it's just taking our topsoil away from our town.
My
and-
my experience in the construction business is that they scrape the topsoil off and leave just behind enough to do the skim out when they're done. And they sell that topsoil and it pays for the site work on that property. That's all included in their bids when they go into that. They know how much it is, geological surveys, and they just leave enough 2 or 3 inches left over to top it off after they place the gravel down. And I don't know the prices of topsoil. There's a difference between topsoil and loam.
Yeah.
And loam is screened rather more finely. Loam has some organic matter in it. Topsoil doesn't necessarily, just the way it is. Usually topsoil is nothing bigger than a softball in it for rocks, but that's.
So what do we need to change about this?
Well, my question is, in the ordinance, it just says there's, that the zoning board issues a special permit, but it doesn't say what the special permit is and what they are required to do to get that special permit. Are there any limitations? Are there any, I just think you could put a little more meat in that.
The idea is that they can't remove any unless they get permission for doing it, and then they can ask and explain what they're doing and why they're removing the topsoil.
But it doesn't tell you when to approve it and when not to approve it.
And that's like anything with zoning that you need.
So, you want to just leave, they could just say yes or no, no matter what. You don't
They-
want to put any, that's fine. You want to leave it the way it is, they're going to get a special permit. Just come get a special permit. Well, what do I need to do? Do I have to have, how much can I take? Well,
The zoning board should be protecting the natural resources of our town and not just letting
Yeah,
it
but
disappear
what,
out.
what that is one thing to me and something else to you.
you want to let your zoning board, I just not used to seeing it that broadly stated, but with a permit, when you're issuing a permit, usually there's some
Yeah. What other
guidelines to
towns
what you're
have.
issuing, that's all.
So the purpose is to protect,
No, I
like
understand
Tom
the
was saying,
purpose.
from people from stripping our topsoil and using
Right.
it to profit. So if there are other, I'd entertain that.
Yeah, samples from the other towns before we.
Yeah, let's look at other towns and see if they say,
I'd like that.
an
Copy
acre
from
or
the neighbors.
2 quarts or,
That's what
I agree with you. It doesn't say, and what might be stripping the topsoil is one thing to me and something else to John and something else to you, Leanne. So I think unless we spell it out, it's pretty vague and we don't want that to happen. Just my own
And
opinion.
I believe there's a whole thing on it in the master plan too. If you look at the master plan, it explains, preserving our natural resources and soil.
I mean, like as written, technically, if I were to take a couple of shovels of dirt in my yard and put it in a bucket and try to drive out of town, that's a violation, correct?
Yep.
Because I don't have a
According to
perfect.
this, it is.
Yeah, according to this, it is.
Okay, yeah. So I think at the very least, like there needs to be something as far as like
And I think we can
residential
look-
And that's a
versus
statewide,
non-residential.
that's a
look at
state,
other towns for
that is a state law. They don't want people moving soil around in the state without special permits.
Well, they do get a permit. They
Yeah.
do get a state permit now, not residential, commercial.
All right.
So we do that, state permit. This is another step on top of the state permit.
So to recap, we're going to do table of permitted uses.
Research.
We're gonna
Number
research
3, yeah.
that. So we're going to do the table of permitted uses for the livestock fowl.
So good
Yeah.
And we just
definitions.
need to add a definition there, correct?
Yep.
Yeah.
On fowl, it would be a definition and then put it on the table
Yes.
of permitted uses.
And then, excavation regulations, we're gonna try to be more specific there.
Yeah.
And,
Look at some
short-term rentals.
research.
Short-term.
Short-term rentals is gonna take I know that they spent a lot of time in Laconia.
Mm.
We can get a copy of that.
So if we could get a copy of the Laconia.
Yeah, I actually have a copy of that. Yeah.
You do have a copy of that one?
Oh,
Okay, good.
Mm.
So we can look there to see what's appropriate for us.
Yep.
Because, we have to allow short-term rentals along the lake and that.
Yeah,
That's
we do.
very,
You know, 'cause
very
of the-
common.
Yes.
Yeah.
Cabins, but in neighborhoods, that might be a little different.
Well, what's the
I-
difference?
What's the difference?
Different.
The difference is that it's expected when you're in a resort commercial town to have that type of thing.
Yeah.
But if you're in a single family neighborhood with families and children, to have people coming in and out as if it's like a hotel or
And that's
motel,
what it is.
it's a little bit different. If you had, your kids playing next door and you don't know who the people are that just moved in next to you.
Well, to add on that, I've seen residential properties rent out their lawns for campfires.
Well, that happens
It
all,
shouldn't be there.
Yeah.
I didn't realize that. I just saw that on Facebook.
Yeah.
In Northfield, they do that.
Well, I don't think it's allowed, but they do
They
it.
do it in Northfield
Is
because
it-
it's on Facebook. I've seen it.
Yeah, well, I think it's one of those things where
They
it's
did
not
it down on
specifically
Grange Street for the
prohibited.
bike week.
So the other thing is that I'd like to know if there's any town around that has what John Bernard is proposing. Do you know?
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
Who?
Almost,
Where?
I think I can name, all the southern New Hampshire towns have it. Hooksett has 5 of them.
Hmm?
Hooksett has 5 MU districts like that with master plan requirements.
5 different types, not just 5 that have been developed.
No, 5 separate MU
1, 2,
districts,
3,
4 and
Where's that?
5,
Wow. Okay.
with
all right.
development in each. I know 5 is 5. Yeah.
Whereabouts?
Where are the developments?
No, what town?
Oh, so Hooksett has them, Londonderry has them,
Salem.
Salem has them.
One thing that
Derry
we have
has
to
'em.
remember is Tilton is the smallest town in the state. We have the smallest resources
Yep.
for residents, our school system and all that. And that is a big issue
It's a big.
to try and
Leanne,
start doing density.
What's the
stuff.
population of the town of Hooksett?
16.
Do you know what, we have 3,600.
No, I know. And you may not want this. I'm not trying, you just asked me
Yeah.
if they had an ordinance.
Yeah.
I'm not saying that you guys have to do it. I'm not,
Because I want to look.
right. And also, your voters have already voted in this district.
Mhm.
That's another thing. So the voters, for some reason, voted for,
Regulate,
right.
There's no
then he
property in
can
it.
just-
Right, but it just takes a John Bernard or anyone to do a petition warrant article to put their land in it. And if it passes, I understand that the last one only lost by like 3 or 4 votes.
Well,
So,
So we should get a copy of that exact ballot question and what was proposed in the wording of it.
yeah, we have it, 2005. That's,
Yeah.
anyone looking on the order, if you're doing your research, it's 2005. Who's got that
And
year?
see, and see what the
Manville,
failed thing was.
Yeah, well, I was on the
Yeah.
planning board and everybody was all in favor of it. Nobody objected on the planning board at all at that time.
Yeah.
I'm sure it's
Because I would
Sarah
think maybe
Torrey.
Manville will come back. They might come back if this goes and put their property in mixed use.
Who?
There's just
Manville
so
Road.
The
many
Manville property.
questions on
That was a MB Tractor.
Oh, it was?
That's who that was. All right, do we have enough to work till next week? Until next 2 weeks?
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
Motion to
I
adjourn?
have one
So
more.
are we getting
Oh, I'm sorry.
samples
Oh,
about
no.
the mixed use ones, or what are we doing with
Yeah.
that number 8? Are we getting other examples?
Are you,
or
are
we-
you pursuing 8 or not?
Yeah, are we pursuing
Well,
it?
that's why I wanted to look at places where they already have it.
So
I think with John Bernard, we might need to do this regulation, but we don't have to vote that his property goes in there. But if we don't do all this stuff in advance, he's gonna do what he wants.
Well, that's
No,
my feeling.
No, he's not.
No?
No.
I mean, how do we know that he's,
Why,
let's say he's
how do you
putting
know
up
that?
residential?
Because he can't do what he wants. He can't.
There's no permitted use, no table of values for this.
I think she's saying if his petition passed, right? And he,
Yeah,
Yeah, because he could add his property
yeah.
to this district, and then is there?
Well, he can't.
No-
The voters have to vote it in.
And
Right,
if it
right.
gets added, there's no regulations really.
So he could
There's
just
nothing
he could
here.
just go to a degree.
Yeah, there's no yes or no, permitted or not in the table of uses.
Yeah, he could get it added to mixed use too, and then just start,
But
I don't
even
know,
if he
building
puts
a bunch of
assisted,
self-storage places.
55 and older, is it
Exactly.
gonna be rental or is it gonna be sale? You know, is the
It
rest
could
of
be
the rental gonna be
self-storage.
rental or sale? I don't know.
So I mean, if we were to,
So I think we
Set
should put
regulations.
regulations because he will go out.
yeah, well, because then that way we can define certain percentage has to be rentals versus houses versus condos
I don't
versus.
think he's vindictive and that he would
No,
just
he's
do
not,
anything.
but he wants
But
his
he
property
owns
in there.
property and he wants to put it to use. He's
And
a businessman and I don't blame him.
yeah, he wants to make some money off it. That's his entitlement to do with his property. However, that property is currently zoned as what, resort commercial?
Yes.
Correct.
And that's
But he
in our,
wants- yeah.
in our master plan, we planned out that we want very distinctive zones to limit the growth of things in certain areas. And that's why that zone is in there. So he would
So
be
I'm not
switching
saying
his.
number 8
So
is for us
we
to
need
put
to
his
do it
property
right.
in there. Right.
We need to make, we need to do is
Mhm.
work on what
The
that
dimensional
looks like,
values and the.
what it
yes.
should look like.
Yes. I'm in agreement with that. Come to an agreement on all these
I mean,
tables.
I hate to say it, but I mean, you can put forward an amendment to remove the district. I mean, I'm not trying to go against John, but I mean, in full disclosure, as staff, I mean, you need to know that that's a way to go too. I'm not recommending that, but
What's the board want to do?
maybe you
Or
think about it
try
and,
look at other areas where they have it.
yeah, I can bring you some.
And yeah,
And they've been
research,
successful. I mean,
because
they're,
we might be able to put this thing together.
Yeah, because I think,
So we'll say
I
8
think
is
it
a
would be,
yes
I
for
think it would
research.
be a better use of the land than some of the other things that could go there.
Yes.
That's how I feel.
So number 8, we'll put yes, research, right? Yeah.
That's how, I mean, it could be storage buildings.
Storage buildings don't put
Storage units.
storage buildings don't put a stress on our services.
Yeah, storage buildings give us taxes, but nothing else goes into
but
the
it can be a
system.
hotel. He's a resort commercial. You can put another big hotel there, which
Yep.
has been approached.
And
You
there's
can put,
big
you know,
taxes, but you don't have residents
Right.
that-
It's
that
not
use the
helping
taxes.
residents, yeah.
Oh, and again, what he's proposing solves another issue of ours, and that's the fact that we don't have places for people to live.
Yeah.
Well,
That's a big issue here. That's a real big issue, not just in the state, but in Tilton as well.
Yeah, I guess so. My concern there is just, if someone is building a hotel or is building, a camp or what have you, we're letting them build housing for people that's, essentially temporary, but we're not allowing them to build permanent housing for people to work there on the same property. Like I know.
Hotel can be fun.
so, getting back to the reason why I said not to go, I'm looking at zoning regulations, page 39, 10.5, water and sewage, just to make a change, because on page 39, 10.5, water and sewage, if you look at 10.52, it refers, regulations promulgated by the New Hampshire Water Supply and Pollution Control Commission, which about 15
Right.
years ago was changed to New Hampshire DES. So that's nothing that has to be done, but I think we can make a motion to correct that. It also says appropriate town official, but I don't even know which one we should, but at least we can change that to New Hampshire DES. Can hand that down.
Yeah, I'm in agreement.
So I'll make that as a motion and
I'll
everybody can
second
take a
it.
look.
Okay.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
And just looking at that, if anybody's really bored, go through them all. I don't think it's all up to Leanne to have to do this with all of her stuff that she has to do, but we can look through some of these ordinances and say, that's quirky. And, there's little things that have changed, but we don't have to bring before the voters. It's just different names of things have changed.
So on a similar note, one of the where do I park documents on the website says contact the TPD at 179 East Main Street.
So that document, that's on the website, right? So whoever is in charge of that document on the website wouldn't be us, so.
Okay, well, because it's just the 2020 and the 2021 ordinances, and then the most recent change for Lot B, they're all on the website and they all conflict. So I'm not sure if that's something
I don't know
we
what,
manage.
Can you start? I don't know what you're talking about right now. Where are you? What are we talking about?
So
The
the
DES thing? No.
Parking ordinance.
Oh,
no, sorry. I was
Sorry.
yeah. So because John had brought that up, I had noticed that we have 3 downtown parking ordinance pages on the website, or documents that all say different things as of the most recent change, as of July 1st. So I wasn't sure if that is something that planning handles or is zoning handles or the town handles
is
as
there an
far as
error
parking
on it, or-
information.
in the parking ordinance, I'm sorry if I'm really slow, it's getting late. You're saying on page 29, is there a correction? I'm just asking what you're looking at, Nate.
I was talking about the documents on the Tilton website for parking, because some of it,
Ordinance.
not the
Oh,
ordinance.
Then that
Yeah.
has nothing to do with us.
Yeah,
That's
it's
take up with the
website,
selectmen.
which is
The
not
selectmen
planning board.
handle that. Okay.
Okay. And I guess the only other thing is, if we do nothing about tiny houses, does that mean they can't be built in Tilton, or does that mean people can do whatever they like within state regulations?
I would have to get an attorney's interpretation, because we do in our ordinance, which all towns do not have, we have a minimum square footage for dwelling. However, there is some new legislation on tiny houses from the state, and I am not sure if that trumps our ordinance that we would be required to allow it. I have talked to a few planners in the state, and everybody has a different opinion. So,
I know when it came with accessory dwellings, we didn't have anything for accessory dwellings. We had something against accessory dwellings.
right.
And when the state ruled that we had to have accessory dwellings, it trumped our ordinance and we had to change our ordinance.
Right. So we might have to allow them, but I don't have the answer to that.
Us.
We can have
That's what I would
stricter
assume.
rules on zoning than the state requires.
Right, but the whole thing is we have nothing now. So if we have any opinion on tiny homes as a town, we may want to at least look at what the state has passed to see if.
Yeah, there's quite a bit of literature online, because it's been talked about quite a bit in the legislature. So you can look in. You free to do some research on that. I'm sorry?
Leanne, did they pass anything in the legislative body?
I think they did.
Yeah, they did.
Okay.
I think from what I read, it looks like they passed it. Yeah. I mean, you read about the legislature, and you got to keep going through dates and dates and dates. It goes to the House, goes to the Senate.
Housing is a real hot issue at the state level.
Yeah, and I think they did pass the tiny houses, but and tiny houses as accessory dwellings, detached, because they're talking about mandating that you have to allow detached. We already allow detached, so
Is anybody online?
it might be Tim. Tim was here.
How can you tell? It usually has the little thing on the side.
Upper right.
Yeah, because I didn't know.
If you click on the people,
Pat was
What do you do?
really.
It might be the.
When
There's 2
Pat-
people on the people person thing.
When
Yeah,
Pat,
maybe we should check
One
and
of them
see.
is us, though.
we
Let's
have
see
it
the
full screen,
questions.
that's why.
And they may wish to comment.
Ralph just left.
Who?
Ralph.
Who's
Said
Ralph?
Ralph.
Nobody asked a question. No one's
Might be
hand is
Janice
raised.
usually watches.
Usually we put the thing up and then it's easier to check.
It's 2 people.
Oh, there we go.
JD.
I mean, member of the public, we don't really have to know, I guess.
I don't see any
No
hands.
questions. They don't say they have any questions. They don't have their hands up.
Anybody have any questions online? Motion to adjourn?
No, are we doing minutes?
Oh, that's right. Yes, minutes, I'm sorry.
I have a question on the minutes.
Yeah.
So people attend online like that, but we aren't gonna put if others were in attendance online or anything like that.
No,
Because I was at this meeting, but I was online.
Doesn't count.
doesn't count.
That's why I didn't know if it went to others in attendance. Said COVID.
I think you can, there's
We used
an
to put it
allowable
on there.
that a member can attend online, provided you have a majority present.
Uh,
A majority present that a member can attend online. That's we,
Yeah,
So
they can
they should
attend, but
say-
you can't,
So I was
they
there.
can't be on the minutes. They can't,
Why?
so
they can't be.
with the other,
A proxy.
so with,
like having a
Because
proxy,
it was
Christie.
only allowed during COVID, because the governor ruled that it could be done. Now, the governor removed that ruling.
I think it carried out, it carried out that they could as long as there's a majority present at the
I
physical
don't
place.
believe so.
And
I think
before
they
you
can
could,
talk and they can, we could make a note if Christine wanted that she was present online. I don't believe they're allowed to vote online,
They are.
but
But they
again,
would be, any comments that they make online should be part of the record.
And I don't know if they,
So
I didn't
maybe
make
we
any
can-
comments, but I don't know, like
we maybe,
Chuck Mitchell attends,
we
or
can-
different people.
well, I think members are important.
I
that-
think Jeannie recently asked the attorney that question, and so I'll get that information from her.
And now COVID, I couldn't come in.
I forgot.
No choice.
was a question for budget.
Are you
I did
clear?
have COVID. Yes, I am.
All
All
clear?
right, has everybody had an opportunity to read the minutes?
Yep.
Any corrections or comments?
Just that comment.
Make a
Well,
motion
like,
to
'cause I think
approve the
they're looking
minutes.
at how many you
Second.
missed to
All in favor?
Aye.
and all that.
Opposed?
Abstain.
One
I'm
abstention.
sharing the mic with you.
Okay. Motion to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Go that way.
So we got research and stuff to do it.
Homework,
It's not that
Jesus.
time. This is the time I can do it.
I already
You
ordered
have
my
to bring
tax off.
you have to make a picnic lunch.
I'll give you these.
I listen. I
Oh,
listen
No,
to
yeah, I've been,
Oh.
well, I didn't put the dates.
the second half.
Except
of
my